Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandon Edwards, and my presentation is on how bad incentives cause ethical lapses in leaders. Start with a story. Um, about 5 years ago, I used to work for AAA. I worked under our assistant vice president. I'll say his first name was Scott, and we had a goal set to us by AAA National to have 85% of our battery service calls served by dedicated battery trucks. And I'll give you a picture of what one of those looks like. There's batteries on this truck so that the technician is able to replace your battery on site. He's also got jumper cables and the ability to unlock your car. Fantastic program, but it really uh, wasn't designed for the Minnesota, Iowa market. It was more designed for like something like California, where you have a lot more dense call volume. In Minnesota, Iowa, we just did not. But we still had to meet this goal to remain accredited, like a AAA accredited club. So what the assistant vice president did, Scott, was he labeled all of the trucks in our system as battery service trucks like this, including something that would look like this. Now, obviously, a record of this size, 40 ton, is not going to show up to jumpstart your Toyota Prius. But according to our system, it could. And what I thought was just so strange at the time was this was a really good guy, but he made a really unethical decision. Like, and he was thought of as good by most everyone around him. So what really motivated him? And what that really comes down to is, and the subject of this presentation is incentives. So, some examples of where incentives have gone wrong. Unfortunately, there's quite a few. And I think the one that comes to my mind is Wells Fargo, right? Because it's so recent, where they had employees that had incentives to create customer accounts that the customer did not want or didn't need to exist. And it just shows you that the unintended consequences that can occur in a variety of organizations where you have incentives in place, but that are not well thought out. And it brings me to a quote from one of my favorite people, Charlie Munger: "Show me the incentive and I will show you the outcome." And that's just really telling on the superpower that incentives can have on people in motivating their decisions. So, something to keep in mind, just like Scott in my story, these are good people, but there's a bad incentive in place that's motivating their decisions. So there's a lot of studies, two I like in particular, one by Harvard Business Review, and this is from the book Influence, that when you place a lot of pressure on people to meet either a really lofty goal or a short-term target, that they will at best cut corners to meet that goal, or at worst, they will start making unethical decisions or really start working against the people inside their team or against their organization. And their decisions will no longer align with the company values. All right. So, why this is relevant to you and I? Well, we're likely going to be the future leaders of these organizations, and it's going to be within your power to design them. And so what's important is to be aware of how the incentives that you're structuring will influence your employees, but also how the incentives that you're responding to, like your own self-awareness, are influencing you and your behavior. Because we're certainly not immune to these. Even if we're self-aware, the best we have is just knowing what they can do to motivating our behavior. All right. Some things we can do to prevent it. Make sure that when we are designing an incentive program or any sort of incentive that we thoroughly vet any of the possibilities of that program. Make sure that we're rewarding not just the numerical outcomes of the goal, but also the behavior in which it was conducted to achieve it, and making sure we stress long-term goals where hopefully the company is here for a long time, and make sure that these incentives are transparent. All right, gotta make sure we wrap this up. Recap. Never underestimate the power of incentives. They are like superpowers. Poorly designed incentives do not mean bad leaders or bad employees. It means that there's a bad incentive in place. And make sure anytime you're about to implement an incentive, think through the consequences of that incentive and what the possible outcomes may be. All right. Thank you. Have a good night. We're going to stop there.